Shane van Gisbergen arrived at Naval Base Coronado with the single fastest race car in the entire NASCAR Cup Series field, scraped the wall twice during his qualifying lap, called his own performance genuinely disappointing, and still put the number 97 Red Bull Chevrolet on pole position by a full second over the rest of the grid. The numbers on the timing screen told an almost unbelievable story. His lap of 2 minutes and 14.788 seconds made him the fastest qualifier by a massive margin on a track nobody in NASCAR had ever raced before at any level. Carson Hocevar qualified second. Ryan Blaney, one of the most versatile drivers in the series, took third. Connor Zilisch, the young Trackhouse teammate being hyped as the next great road course talent in NASCAR, was more than a full second behind in 8th position. Ross Chastain could only manage 23rd. SVG hit the wall twice, told his crew he left a ton of time on the table, and was still a full second faster than everyone else at their absolute best. Then lap 32 happened and everything collapsed. A restart pileup triggered by Austin Hill missing the apex of Turn 1 wiped out both Trackhouse racing cars, collected 9 drivers in total, and dropped SVG below the NASCAR Cup Series playoff cut line with only 9 regular season races remaining. If you care about where the 2026 championship is heading, you need to stay locked in for this entire breakdown because what happens at Sonoma Raceway next weekend is now the single most important race of SVG's entire NASCAR career. Before anyone can fully understand how devastating the Coronado disaster really was, you have to go back to Pocono Raceway the week before, because that event set the exact same brutal pattern that just repeated itself in San Diego. At the Great American Getaway 400, SVG qualified 31st on an oval track, which is not unusual for him at all. Ovals remain his weakest surface and everyone in the garage knows it. He ground forward through the field methodically, moved up to 22nd position by the end of Stage 1, and was building solid championship points when everything collapsed on lap 46. 3 cars went wide coming off Turn 3 and SVG got caught directly in the middle of the chaos. Austin Hill was on the inside line, Josh Berry was on the outside, and there was absolutely nowhere for SVG to go. The chain reaction swallowed up 8 cars in total. Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace, and his own Trackhouse teammate Connor Zilisch were all collected in the same incident. SVG finished multiple laps down. Denny Hamlin won the race for his 3rd straight victory. SVG went home with almost nothing to show for his effort. The Pocono crash hurt badly, but what made it mentally survivable was the knowledge that Coronado was coming up next. A brand new street circuit, exactly the kind of track where SVG becomes practically untouchable. He had every reason to believe he could erase all the Pocono damage in one single afternoon in San Diego. He was completely right about the speed. He was devastatingly wrong about the outcome. The circuit at Naval Base Coronado is a 3.4-mile, 16-turn street course built on an active military base near San Diego in a location where nobody in NASCAR had ever competed before at any level of the sport. There was no prior data available to any team. No historic setup sheets existed. No reference laps from previous years could be studied. Every single driver in the field showed up completely cold to this racetrack. That reality should have been a great equalizer for the entire garage. It was not. On Saturday during qualifying, SVG went out and immediately demonstrated why he operates on a completely different level than his competition on road and street circuits. He scraped the wall with his number 97 Chevrolet not once but twice during his flying lap. When he returned to the pits, he was genuinely frustrated and told his crew he left a significant amount of time on the table. He said the track did not behave the way he expected it to. This was not some performance of humble champion theater either. He actually believed his lap was poor. Then he looked up at the timing screens. His time had demolished the field. Carson Hocevar was second, Ryan Blaney was third, and his own teammate Connor Zilisch was more than a full second behind him in 8th. Ross Chastain, a driver known for his road course capabilities, could only manage 23rd on the grid. SVG hit the wall twice, called his lap bad, and was still a full second faster than his own teammate. That right there is the secret weapon that makes him so dangerous on these tracks. Even at less than his personal best, he is better than everyone else at their absolute peak performance. This was his 6th career Cup Series pole position, and all 6 of them have come on road or street circuits. He is a different species on these tracks, and qualifying proved it for what felt like the 100th time. When the green flag dropped on Sunday afternoon, SVG immediately confirmed what the qualifying lap had already revealed to everyone watching. He had the single fastest car in the entire field, full stop. He led laps early in the running. His car was working perfectly as the track surface rubbered up and grip levels increased throughout the opening stage. Both he and Zilisch were running at the front and looking like the 2 most dangerous drivers on the entire circuit. His crew made a calculated strategic decision to give up stage points during stage 1, sacrificing those early championship points in exchange for track position heading into the crucial middle portion of the race. This was a bold call, the kind of strategic gamble that only makes sense when you genuinely believe your car is fast enough to win the whole thing from the front. And the car absolutely was fast enough. SVG was a legitimate threat for the historic win at NASCAR's first ever Cup Series race in San Diego. Nobody who watched the first 30 laps would have told you anything different. Then lap 32 arrived and everything changed in an instant. A caution flag flew on lap 30 when Brent Cruz, who had taken over Christopher Bell's car after Bell stepped out due to his broken wrist suffered at Michigan, experienced a mechanical failure on the track. Under that caution period, SVG chose to stay out and maintained his position in third to set himself up for the Stage 2 restart. On the lap 32 restart, Richard Childress Racing driver Austin Hill took the inside lane. Zilisch lined up on the outside. SVG got such a strong launch that he briefly went 3 wide with both of them, but immediately thought better of the situation and backed out of the throttle, giving the top 2 drivers room to run their own race into the corner. It was absolutely the right call. He did not want to be 3 wide going into a tight street course turn. The problem is that what happened next had nothing whatsoever to do with SVG's decision-making. Hill completely missed the apex of turn 1. Instead of hitting the corner cleanly, he went wide and drove straight into the side of Zilisch, sandwiching the Trackhouse number 88 directly into the outside concrete wall. With Zilisch suddenly stationary and Hill bouncing off him, SVG was arriving at full speed with nowhere on earth to go. He plowed into the back of Hill and went straight into the wall himself. The resulting carnage collected 9 cars in total. Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, Riley Herbst, and John Hunter Nemechek were all swept up in the same devastating wave. This was the single biggest incident of the entire race, and it triggered the first ever red flag in NASCAR Cup Series history at Naval Base Coronado. SVG's number 97 Chevrolet was damaged beyond any repair that could get him back on track competitively. Zilisch's number 88 was destroyed. Hill's number 33 was destroyed. The 2 fastest Trackhouse cars ended up at the very bottom of the results sheet. SVG finished 38th, Zilisch finished 37th. When SVG climbed out of his destroyed race car and faced the media, his reaction was raw and brutally efficient. Asked how disappointed he was to leave San Diego with no trophy and almost no points, he gave a one-word answer. He said he was filthy. Then he added only one more sentence. He said, the Red Bull Chevy was unreal fast once the track kind of rubbered up. A real shame. That was all he said. Because what else is there to say when you have the best car on the entire track and someone else takes you out of the race before you even reach the halfway point? Zilisch, for his part, was equally direct about what happened. This was his 6th DNF of the 2026 season, and it came while he was leading laps for the very first time in his NASCAR Cup Series career. He told reporters, I felt like I was giving Austin space, and the next thing I know I was in the wall. He added that he hated to end both Trackhouse days that way because both Red Bull Chevys had cars capable of winning the race. When asked if the incident was simply one of those racing deals that happen sometimes, Zilisch pushed back. He said, it was a little more egregious than that. Austin Hill gave his own perspective after being released from the infield care center. He admitted, I got into turn 1 a little deep and started sliding. I was sliding the rears and I slid the fronts a little bit. On corner exit, I was fully locked to the right just trying to stay off the number 88. He went on to say, it's one of those racing deals. If I had that extra car width and the number 88 wasn't there, I would have cleared fine, but knowing that he was out there, I carried a little too much entry pace compared to what I had been doing all day. He'll apologize directly to Zilisch and the number 88 team, but the damage was already done and there was no way to reverse it. Here is where the Coronado disaster stops being just a frustrating race story and becomes a genuine playoff crisis. When SVG qualified on pole position Saturday, he and his team deliberately chose not to take stage points in Stage 1 as part of their race-winning strategy. That calculated gamble only works if you are still running at the end of the race to collect the victory points. When the lap 32 crash eliminated him from competition, he lost both the stage points he had given up and the race points he was counting on. The result dropped him all the way to 17th in the NASCAR Cup Series standings. The top 16 drivers make the chase postseason. SVG is now sitting 5 points outside the cut line with only 9 regular season races remaining before the playoffs begin. 5 points is razor thin. It is nearly invisible. And the brutal reality is that 2 of the absolute best opportunities he had to build a cushion, Pocono and Coronado, were both ripped away by contact that had absolutely nothing to do with his own driving. The only immediate lifeline available to SVG right now is Sonoma Raceway next weekend. This is not just another road course on the calendar. It is the final road course on the entire regular season schedule before the chase begins. If SVG does not maximize Sonoma and collect every possible point, he will spend the final stretch of the regular season fighting for his postseason life on oval tracks where he has historically been at his weakest. His crew chief has already acknowledged the difficult situation bluntly, confirming that the team will be in Group 1 for qualifying at Sonoma. That is the harder qualifying group to navigate, making the path to a strong starting position even more difficult heading into a race they essentially cannot afford to mess up. One more layer to this entire situation that stings specifically for SVG. Going into Coronado, he had 7 career Cup Series wins to his name. He now sits below the playoff cut line with his entire 2026 championship hopes hanging by a thread because of 2 straight contact incidents that were not his fault. SVG said it himself in one word: filthy. Now the question is whether he can turn that frustration into something unstoppable at Sonoma or whether the 2026 season will go down as the year his championship hopes were wrecked by someone else's mistakes. If this story kept you locked in from start to finish, smash the like button right now and help this channel keep covering the NASCAR stories that actually matter. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you get the Sonoma update the moment it drops, because that race is going to be must-watch television for every single SVG fan. Sonoma could either save his playoff hopes or officially end his 2026 championship run, and that breakdown is coming next week.